Hey everybody, Mr. Holder here, welcome back. In this tutorial I want to show you how you can use the Pathfinder palette. I have the Pathfinder palette already open, but for you it's probably not going to be showing up. And if that's the case, then you want to go to the window menu and find Pathfinder. It's alphabetized, and that'll bring up the Pathfinder palette. And a lot of these different functions on the Pathfinder palette we're not going to be using, but I'll show you the ones that I use most often to come up with more complex shapes. So what I'll do is I'll draw two circles, just two overlapping shapes. They could be whatever you want, but I got two shapes, and you can only do the Pathfinder with two shapes. So you can't do it with three if you're trying to combine a bunch of triangles together and break them apart and divide those and cut out different pieces of it. With three or more, it won't work. You have to do it with two. And the other thing you have to remember too is you have to make sure, in order to get this to work right, to have both of the shapes selected. Another thing to keep in mind is you want to make sure you know what order your shapes are in. So I know this is the second shape that I drew, therefore that shape is actually on top of the first shape that I drew, because whenever you draw something new, it will put it in the top of the layer order. So I have both shapes currently selected. I'm going to show you this first mode here called Unite. And what that does is it's going to merge our two shapes into one when I click it. So now I have a more complex shape. It looks almost like a sort of a non-objective cloud shape, sort of an abstract cloud shape, and I can get a little bit crazier with that if I want to create almost like a Super Mario Brothers looking cloud. And because now this first shape, these two shapes became one, it's now one shape, and I'm going to select both of them now. So I have my more complex shape and then this extra circle. I'm going to hit Unite again, and it will merge it down to one shape again. So it's a really cool way to just come up with neat abstract custom shapes. The next tool in the Pathfinder that I use is something called minus front. And what that does is it'll minus the shape that you draw second, or the shape that's on top. So here I have two shapes again. This circle that I drew is on top of this circle. So when I select both of them, because I'm going to choose minus front, it's going to cut out this top shape. And so you're left with something that looks like a crescent moon. The next thing over is something called Intersect, and basically when you put two shapes together, it will cut them out and leave you with the part where it intersects. So here I have my two shapes again. So this part in the middle here where they both sort of intersect each other, if I click that, it's going to cut out the outside portions and leave me with this little weird looking shape on the inside. And then the opposite of that is exclude, which will actually cut out the inside. This part would be deleted and leave me with the outside portions. That's pretty much all of the different ones that I use. I pretty much stay within shape mode. The way these other ones work is it cuts up the shapes, but it doesn't delete them. So for example, if I were to do a minus front, it deletes the shape that's overlapping the top there. So if I select both of them and I hit minus front, it's going to delete the front shape. Let's say I don't want it to do that. I just want it to cut the shapes up. So I'll hit Control Z to undo that. And then I'm going to select both of the shapes again. And this time I'm going to hit Divide. Now you're not going to notice anything happening with Divide, but it did divide it up. You have to first go in and ungroup it to see what the results were. So I'm going to right click on my mouse and say ungroup. And then I can click and pull on these shapes, and you can see that it actually dissected the shapes up into three parts. So rather than overlap where it deletes the different shape that's on minus front or minus back, it'll actually just cut the shapes up for you. So that's how Pathfinder works. If you're not very good with drawing, I highly suggest practicing with Pathfinder to make more complex shapes, especially if you're not good with the pen tool either. You can practice with this and get really good with taking basic shapes that you can draw in Illustrator and combining them into more complex shapes.